Morning, everybody. This is Jim Hawke from Team Hawke Realty. Today I want to talk about a really controversial topic in our industry, and that is multiple offers. Multiple offers are here. We've been living with them for the last couple of years on a really strong basis. They're very stressful for buyers. They can actually be very stressful for sellers. And probably one of the biggest problems that we're running into is the transparency with multiple offers. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to kind of break this down into strategies that are good for buyers and strategies that are good for sellers in the multiple offer situation. Hi there, now I want to discuss more about sellers during a multiple offer situation. And again, as a seller, you obviously want the highest price, you want the best terms, and you want your preferred closing date. So those are the three drivers that are going to push you to accepting a buyer's offer. And price. It's funny, but not always the highest price is what makes a seller accept an offer. These three things really work closely together when the seller's accepting an offer. And I'll give you an example. If your house is listed for $799 and somebody offered, you have three offers. One is $799 cash with your preferred closing date. The second one is $820 conditional on financing plus conditional on a home inspection and your preferred closing date. And then the third offer is $818,000 cash at or very close to your closing date. In my experience in this last couple of years, the 818 cash probably 90% of the time will override the 820. Even if this was 825, most sellers are going to take the 818 cash before they're going to take the 825 conditional on financing and conditional on home inspection. There is the odd seller that'll say, you know what, I'm perfectly comfortable with what my house has to offer. If I've got enough details on the buyer's financing and I'm comfortable with the buyer's financing, then I may just take the chance and make myself $7,000 in the transaction. So the $799 would obviously be out. And this is kind of a pretty close observation of what happens in the multiple offer situations. You know, everyone's a little bit different. The thing with us as agents, our responsibility is 818 cash. Does that guy have cash in the bank to make this happen? More times than not, they don't. So do they have a large down payment? Is their lender 100% confident that they're going to get their financing? I mean, if someone's putting 5% down and they're getting a CMHC mortgage and high ratio mortgage and they're not confident, you know, they're wishy-washy, they're only approved to $815, but they're going to squeeze in an extra $3,000 to make this happen. Our job is to find out some of those answers from the buyer's agents to make sure that our sellers aren't getting themselves into a bad situation. You know, in that case, if you've got a good solid buyer at 825, then you might be better off taking the 825. Or if you've got a seller with $799 cash and you're really desperate to get your place sold, and this guy has the cash in the bank or he has $500,000 down, that might be your best offer. So I wish I could say that it was an exact science and it was crystal clear, but you really want to find out some answers as the seller's agent to make sure that these people are who they say they are. And asking the questions to the buyer's agent is the only way of getting around that. So what we typically try and do is we try and talk to the buyer's agent to find out if these people do have the cash, which is very unusual, how much of a down payment they have, how solid their financing looks, how solid the buyers are, and that's also going to maybe be determined on their deposit. You know, you may have, and I should have actually, maybe this would be a fourth as a deposit. You know, if you've got an $800,000 offer and you put a $5,000 deposit on it, that's not going to show a lot of strength to as a seller's agent. I can look at that and go, that's a pretty weak deposit on an $800,000 offer. If you've got a $50,000 deposit, then I'm going to feel pretty comfortable with $50,000. If you put $100,000 down as a deposit, then as a seller's agent, I'm going to talk to my sellers and say, look, this person's willing to put $100,000 down if they are very, very confident that they're going to make this deal close and everything's going to be fine. So this guy may have a $100,000 deposit, and this guy may have a $5,000 deposit. And I would probably say, let's make one call and see if we can get this guy up, closer to this number, so that we can get this guy to buy the house, because he's got a $100,000 deposit, and it's going to be a lot stronger, in my opinion, than someone that's only willing to put up $5,000 when they're buying an $800,000 property. So that is probably the fourth major consideration that I would look at as I'm looking through multiple offers. And again, we've had situations where we've talked to buyers agents, and not every buyer has gone through the property. We had one recently where, one of the buyers went through, but the spouse hadn't gone through, and we started probing and asking questions, and we found out that they didn't know a lot about the property, but they were coming in with an all cash offer, and we had another offer that was close, so our seller ended up taking the other offer. So having these conversations with the buyer agents is important. Not all agents do this, but if you're a seller, please talk to your agent and make sure that they're asking these questions and making sure that they're getting the answers that you want to hear. You definitely want to know the stability of your buyer. You want to know the stability of every buyer that's made an offer, and then you can make a very, very strong decision based on that information. It's very complex. It takes a little bit of time to go through, but it's the best way to go through it is have your agent do his work, her work on getting everything prepared ahead of time. And that's a lot of the questions that we'll ask prior to even meeting with you going into the offer situation, so we'll have some answers for you. Any questions on this, please feel free to give me a call. Give one of my agents a call. We'll sit down with you, talk about how this whole process is working, get into some more details.